What is going on, everybody? This is Rob Potsy Podcheck. I'm on YouTube live, and I am getting ready to take questions. But before I do that, wanted to go ahead and actually discuss some of the things that I saw on the internet that kind of just caught my eye. Uh, the first thing is all about Tom Cruise's new Top Gun Maverick movie that's supposed to be coming out next year, and what USA Today actually said that they seem to know about it already. The movie is definitely happening, and it looks like we're going to get uh, a 56-year-old Tom Cruise trying to look like his 23-year-old self. But I guess he's going to take on more of the Tom Skerritt role. And now it even looks like Val Kilmer will also be back. Kilmer's 58 years old, and he said that he was officially in the sequel. Can't comment on the screenplay, but we all know what we want to see, Kilmer wrote. So it will be interesting to see what's going on with that. Um, yeah. So so Tom Cruise is coming back to make a sequel of Top Gun. What's everybody think of that? Personally, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself like, why 30 years later? Like it just, to me, it just seems like the wrong time to have Tom Cruise try to do that. But then again, in IMAX the other day, I'm sitting there watching the previews and they do this special look at Mission Impossible Fallout, and it looks like Tom Cruise is just doing whatever he can to kill himself. Like he's learning how to fly a helicopter, he's learning how to do barrel rolls and all this other crazy shit with his flying and everything else. And of course, they show him actually film the scene, and then he goes, "How was that?" And they're like, "Very nerve wracking, Tom. Great job." It's like, was it really nerve wracking, or did you just is that all hocus pocus and mumbo jumbo? Like, I know that he likes to do his own stunts. Henry Cavill in that movie apparently is doing his own stunts because he can't be topped by Tom Cruise here. And yet, for whatever reason, like Tom Cruise wants to fly a helicopter and actually learn how to do this. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to think Tom Cruise should be, first of all, should be an action star, and then on top of that, after thinking, okay, Tom Cruise is now an action star, I'm sitting here going, why is Tom Cruise learning how to fly a helicopter? Am I the only one that thinks that? I don't know. So I do have a bunch of questions that were asked by people on Facebook the other night. I will get to those. I basically figured I will give an update. Last night I was trying to do this, and for whatever reason it just didn't come about. Didn't have the time to do it. Couldn't make it work. So I apologize for not being here last night to do this. But now I am here. The show tonight is brought to you by my TeePublic page, teepublic.com/rpodcheck. Maybe it's users/rpodcheck. I don't really know. You can follow me on Twitter at Pochak. You can follow me on Instagram at Rob Pochak, or you can even check out my Facebook page, facebook.com/Rob Pochak. Uh, as you all should know by now, I am the writer of a comic book that came out last year called Immortal. I'm a writer of a new comic book that's coming out in September called Junior High Horrors, drawn by Billy Parker, and Rob Rediano is the penciler on it. Got a lot of good things going on with that. Also have some behind the scenes workings going that we may be announcing here shortly. You guys on YouTube will probably be some of the few that actually hear about it as it happens. But it looks like another big project possibly for people in the North Carolina area to get involved with. So I'm pretty excited about that. Not ready to announce full details on it because we haven't really nailed down all the details yet. But working with some people I haven't worked with before, and it's looking pretty interesting. So keep an eye out on that. All right, I apologize for that light behind me. I'm going to try to figure out something with that. One of these episodes. Also, if we need more light on me or whatever, I can take care of that too. But I think I'm pretty good right now. You don't really want to see this mug anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of these questions. The first one I'm going to answer is from Shane. Shane sits there and actually asks me a sports-related question. What do I think of the state of the Carolina Hurricanes now that another piece, Steve Smith, has jumped ship? So, for those that don't know, Steve Smith was the assistant coach of the Carolina Hurricanes. He was in charge of the defensemen, and he was also in charge of the power play and penalty kill. Now, if you are a hockey fan, you probably know that the Carolina Hurricanes were not very good on the power play last year or on the penalty kill. Now, at the same time, they were one of the lower teams in terms of actual penalty minutes, so they really didn't have to practice it a lot, if you want to say so. Uh, Shane, to answer your question, the team's in disarray. We're watching them make moves with players. We're watching them talk publicly about how some of their stars need to go. We're watching a lot of stuff like that, and ultimately, when I think about it, it's like, at this point, the team should be in a fire sale. Like, we got rid of Cam Ward, which, he was a longtime member of the team. I know him. I've actually met him multiple times. Really nice guy. Wish him all the best in Chicago, being the backup up there. Obviously, he's going to be in a playoff contending team. Whereas here, he was the number one goaltender, and he's past those days of being the number one. So now with Steve Smith leaving, I'm wondering if that's a Brindamore decision, or if that is a upper management decision, or if this was a Steve Smith himself decision. I really don't have the answers to all that because I'm not behind the closed doors. But it does seem like Rod Brindamore, the head coach of the team, is making decisions and making changes for himself that are totally what he thinks are in the best interest of the team. We've seen some people brought back into the organization. We've seen people leave the organization. It almost seems to me that Steve Smith will probably join Bill Peters up in Calgary, and for us as Carolina Hurricanes fans, it's late for this to be happening. It's going to be hard to replace the guy, in the middle of the off season. But it's going to be easier to do it now than it would be to do it, after the season begins. So at least the silver lining there can be seen as Steve Smith's replacement can be hired while the team actually is just doing, like, practice squad stuff or whatever. So I tend to think that could be a blessing in disguise. It'll be interesting to see who they replace him with. It'll be really, really, really interesting as to what Don Waddell does with that position, as well as what Brindamore does with that decision. I tend to think that Brindamore is now putting his foot down about who's actually going to be part of this squad, and if they're not willing to put in the same amount of effort that he is, they're going to go away. So the players, the coaches, the the equipment guy, I mean, whoever, if they're not putting it 100%, Brindamore's the type of guy who is the first one there. He's the last one to leave, and it just seems to be that he's not gonna take any bullshit. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. All right. Hopefully that answers your question, and I'm glad you asked it, because I do like talking sports. I don't get to talk to them very much. I do talk pro wrestling, obviously, on my podcast, Potsy and Dino show. Old one was Potsy and the Turd. Sorry, Tino. So all right. So next question. This one comes from our friend Eddie. Eddie asks me, "What is my favorite song to sing karaoke?" And then he follows it up with a second question of, what is my favorite duet? So it's tough. I like to sing a lot of different songs. In fact, it's a little known fact that the very first song I ever sang karaoke to was "It's Not Easy Being Green" by Kermit the Frog. That's right. I like to sit like here and talk like Kermit the Frog. So, like I said, little known fact there. I like to sing as characters. I do a pretty good impression of the guy from the B-52s. So anytime I get to sing Love Shack, I guess that's probably as long as my female co-singer is up to the part and up to the role of actually singing that song. I tend to think that might be one of my favorite in terms of duets. As to my favorite song, I don't know, probably "Hey Jealousy" by the Gin Blossoms. I just love that song and love to sing it. So I like that one. I like "Build Me Up Buttercup" by the Foundations. Our friends at Arkham Comics got to see me do that one live and in person, and I think I shocked them by how that sounded. There's a bunch of other songs that I actually like to sing. I've got quite a few that I go through. I like to sing "Three Doors Down." I like to sing I like to sing some Cheap Trick. I Want You to Want Me. I like to sing Soft Cells, Tainted Love. So I pick some of the weird ones. It's funny. I always joke when I go to a karaoke bar that anybody can sing country, and I think I've kind of proved that by singing some Garth Brooks, as well as two Pina Coladas, some Jimmy Buffett, a bunch of those. And then, of course, everybody likes to think they can sing Journey and a bunch of other songs. So there's quite a list there, Eddie, or Edward, I'm sorry, for what I like to sing. And it's funny because there's a bunch of people out there that feel that oh, these songs are, I hear this guy sing it, I hear that guy sing it, and then they try to sing that song themselves, or they try to steal it before you actually get a chance to sing the song. That kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Another one of my favorite in terms of duets. I'd be remiss to say that if I didn't talk about "You Lost That Love and Feeling," especially since we're talking about Tom Cruise and Top Gun 2. My buddy Chris Edge, who actually asked one of the questions that we're going to get to, him and I like to sing that one. That's a pretty good one. And then with my buddy CT Shorts, who likes to do karaoke out there, we turn every song into a duet. So Edward, for your answer, duets. If CT's with me, every song's a duet, so it doesn't matter. We sing some Sister Hazel, we sing All for You. Um, we Another one that I it's funny because when you start thinking about these songs and you start thinking about what you're going to sing karaoke, like you want to do what you can to try to raise the spirits of the people in the karaoke bar. You don't want to be that person who's singing the old sappy song that bores everybody to tears or anything like that. So I like to I like to sing some crazy stuff. Like when I'm singing with CT, we'll sit there and sing something like Caribbean Queen by Billy Ocean, or we'll sing we'll sing another one uh, we sing some Billy Joel out there. So we do a bunch of different songs. It's been a while since I was Free Comic Book Day was probably the last time that I can remember actually being out and singing, not too long ago. So yeah, it's interesting because I like going out and singing karaoke, and I just haven't had a lot of time to do it, which actually leads to one of the next questions. Hopefully, you feel like I answered your question for you, Edward. Brian asked the question, and I'll read it verbatim. Rob, you're a busy guy. How do you make time for your creative processes, e.g., art, writing, etc.? Why is it when people want an example, they always seem to put it as an EG or an IE, or like I don't I just that random question just comes up. If somebody wants to answer in the comments, by all means, you've got the ability to do so. Getting back to the question, Rob, you're a busy guy. How do you make time for your creative processes, e.g., art, writing, etc.? Do you have set times you stick to no matter what, or does it revolve around? And this is where I'll change the word, the day job hours. So, Brian, I wish I could say there was a way that I do this. I tend not to sleep a lot. So wee hours of the night, if I'm feeling creative, I get up and I start doing something. I play video games. I do that kind of stuff. I tend to do that until like 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. The writing thing, I literally, this little notepad right here, I take it with me when I'm going somewhere. Because for whatever reason, and I'm sitting here at my laptop right now, but for some reason, I do not like typing on my laptop. I get distracted easily. I want to go to YouTube. I want to sit there and design on something for the T Public page. I want to do whatever I can, and because of that, I tend to look at it and I'm like, how do I keep doing that and whatever. So I try to stay as far away from the laptop as possible, and because of that, I got this really cool little gift from the TV show Suits. It's a nice little Suits envelope or notebook. That's going to be backwards, but Suits notebook that because I'm a fan of the show and I've tweeted them and everything, they decided to give a little legal pad, if you will, since the show's a legal ease show. And by the way, I'll go ahead and just flash up there real quick. Hopefully no one can actually make all that out, but that's some of the pages from Junior High Horrors #3, and I just start doodling and stuff too. So I've got JV here with me, and some other characters and stuff that I've got going on. So to answer your question, the creative process, when I feel creative, I try to write something down. Some people say that they wake up from a dream and they try to just jot it down and stuff like that. And I'm not necessarily like a dream guy because, like I said, I don't sleep a lot. So I literally try to do what I can to jot stuff down. Hear the questions everybody asked. The questions from last time are right here on the back. Um, so I jot it down when I get a chance to. Sometimes it's an idea. Sometimes it's, oh man, that's a really good line of script. Let me go ahead and make sure that that's in there for dialogue. Something really funny happens, I'll try to jot it down. When it comes to drawing, I doodle. I doodle all the time. Like literally, if I go looking through most like notebooks or anything else, I've got doodles everywhere. And the whole idea there is when you feel like your hands got to be moving and it's got to be doing something, I doodle it down. I try to put it all on there and make sure that everybody's got it, got what they want from it. So as to trying to keep times and everything, it's funny because every person is different. Writers who write multiple things, like Aaron Dowan, he'll probably tell you that yes, he sets up a certain amount of time per day that he wants to write, and but having talked with him just last week at the Arkham Comics thing, he actually told me that he's working on so many different things at one time, so that way when he gets bored writing one, he can jump into something else, because that way he keeps that creative process going and he feels creative all the time. With me, I literally was writing Junior High Horrors #2 and Junior High Horrors #3 at exactly the same time. And that might sound weird. It might sound like you get a little confused. You put some things in one that aren't in the other, regardless, whatever. And what I did there was the stories. One story was ending, one story was beginning, and because it's a parody book, it's like, okay, this isn't going to have anything to do with that last issue, and we're just going to see where it goes from there. So I was able to work it that way. And at the same time, I've got 2 or 3 other ideas that I've been working on, trying to flesh out a little bit. One with my buddy Kevin Schaefer, and we'll see where that one goes. That one I'm thinking long term in terms of the type of story it is. Imagine a video game store owner, Wizard of Oz, Indian in the cupboard kind of story. It's lots of different stuff going on. So it's funny you asked that question, Brian, and it's funny because today my boss at the day job actually said, why don't I just jump all in and just try to make comics for a living? And I told them they don't pay the bills. and it really takes a while for comic book writers to actually make money on it, unless they're a big name person. And if you look at the industry's got all different types of people that write comics, but 15 years ago or whatever, when Marvel Knights started, they started enlisting people like Kevin Smith and Brad Meltzer and all these other named people that were actually like book writers or movie writers and directors and all this other craziness. So it became harder and harder for a writer to make a name for himself and splash in there and suddenly just be the guy who's gonna write Spider-Man. And obviously I'm not working at Marvel. I'm not working at DC. I'm not going to write Spider-Man. I'm not writing Superman. And I even said on Facebook this week that my public opinions that could get me in trouble, I'm trying not to put on this YouTube page, and that might hurt my chances of getting 60,000 or 100,000 or 5 million followers, because I'm not interested in sitting there and just saying something for the shock value of it. I have opinions of the best writers out there. I have opinions of the highest paid writers out there. I have opinions of everybody. And if you come up and you talk to me at a convention or whatever, I'm more than happy to give you my opinion of it, not on a video. But yet, for whatever reason, I don't want to sit there and say I hate this guy, because I don't hate anybody. I don't hate my ex-wife. I don't hate anybody. So, there are things that I strongly dislike, but I hate nothing. I just don't, but again, it's so so finally, to do I try to put in writing time? Yes, but because I've got a day job, because I'm strapped for time and things like that, I do it when it's convenient. My day is off. I sit there. I try to sit down in front of the computer, or I could go down to the old trick of doing it like Warren Ellis or Mark Millar or any of those guys is you go find a pub and you start writing there, and I do that a lot. I might not even be drinking or whatever while I'm at them, but I'll sit down and get a glass of water and just start jotting stuff down, because you never know when that bug is going to hit you as to, here's a great idea. Let me put that down on paper. So I do it when I find time. I do it when I feel the need to just air something out, and I just make the time. To me, the difference between 5 hours of sleep and 6 hours of sleep, there really isn't much of a difference. I'm sitting there posting stuff on Instagram at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting there, having meetings and stuff with Chris Crosby at Keenspot. Whenever he's away, like, I don't think he sleeps. I think he's a robot. He's definitely the Wizard of Oz when it comes to comic book people. You just I don't think he really exists. I think he literally is an algorithm in a computer program somewhere. And yes, Chris, I know that you watch these, so by all means, enjoy that moment there. So all right, so I've answered Brian's question. I've answered Edward's question. I've answered Shane's question. I have one more question on here, and it is from Chris Edge, the colorist of the Immortal #1 cover from Ethan Van Sciver. So Chris, by the way, is a graphic designer who is working, who totally decided to just trash my logo for one of these ideas that I've got for something coming up. But he thinks he made it better. When we announce it, I'll probably post all of them so that you can actually see them and tell me which one you think is the best. Anyways, Chris asked the question, what are you looking forward to with the upcoming Comic-Con? I guess it's, what are you most looking forward to? Is there anyone attending that you haven't met that you'd go out of your way to meet? Yes, absolutely. In fact, if you take a look at my Twitter, I've been inviting a lot of people to come by. Right now, I'll name drop a few. I've asked Xavier Woods from the WWE, Austin Creed, to come by, because I know he's a huge comic book and video game fan, and I think that if I were to meet him, it'd be one of those moments where I'd be super excited, and just one of those people that has similar interests as me, and actually is living his dreams. Like, that's, to me, that's just awesome, and because of that, awe-inspiring, and somebody I'd want to meet. And obviously he's got a YouTube channel here, Up Down Down, and the Kenny Omega at E3 thing was hilarious. If you haven't watched it, I wouldn't necessarily say you need to watch all 2 hours of it, because it takes forever to watch that thing, but really enjoyed it. He is super entertaining and definitely does not get the credit he deserves. I think that he has all the necessary components to be world champion in WWE, and they just haven't given him the chance for it yet. So that's one of the people. Another person that I sent a message to about it is Cliff Blazinski. He's actually a North Carolina native. I've hung out with him. We go way back because of my day job. Obviously, he's one of the creative geniuses behind Gears of War, and now he's actually working on another game with his new studio here. But him and his wife Lauren will be out in San Diego for San Diego Comic-Con. So I'm gonna try to make sure that I get to talk to him a little bit, and try to wrangle him in and make him want to write a comic book with me. Who knows? No, I'm kidding. Maybe. Cliff, if you're listening. Anyways, so he's another one. Any of the YouTubers, streamers, anything else. I heard Markiplier is not going to be there this year. Anybody who actually saw some pictures from Markiplier last year at San Diego Comic-Con might have seen the back of my head in those pictures, because, well, he was sitting in the same booth as me. He unfortunately is going to be in overseas, so he is not going to be at San Diego Comic-Con this year with his brother Thomas Fishbach, who does a book called Two Kinds for Keenspot. So certain streamers, things like that, I would love to meet. People that actually do GameStop TV. Yes, I just name dropped a company there. The lovely ladies that are all the hosts on that, would love to meet them. Think it'd be awesome. But one specific one that I actually did say, Chris, that I would truly love to meet this year, and will try to go out of my way to do so, is Jamie Lee Curtis. With Junior High Horrors being the book that I'm um, having the preview of at San Diego, and her being on the Halloween panel, kind of makes a lot of sense for me to try to get the original Scream Queen to be uh, to be at my booth, or to hunt her down and give her a copy of the preview, so that I can tell her how she inspired the entire story of how I came up with Junior High Horrors. Obviously, I told that on a previous episode, but I will go ahead and just remind everybody: she writes children's books. The children's books that she writes also have adult themes to them, so that adults actually get something out of the book as well. So I tried to incorporate that when I was coming up with the idea of Junior High Horrors. And so thank you, Jamie Lee, for that. I think that I think the world of her, and really do want to see that movie. I'm actually also talking with some people about um, special signings and things for around the time that the movie actually comes out. So I think that's going to be something really cool. And if anybody out there wants to talk to people like Alamo Drafthouse in Raleigh for me, or anything like that, let them know, hey, there's this huge, this cool comic book coming out called Junior High Horrors, and it's coming out around the same time that the Halloween movie comes out. You know, could you set something up with those guys? Anybody wants to say something like that, I will take the free press, the free advertising, and everything else. I would love to have the Potsy army going after going out there and trying to spread the positivity of my books coming out, or wearing my t-shirts, or anything along those lines. I think that would be awesome. So Chris, those are some of the people. I'll go ahead and say, based on my day job, we have a trade show that we go to every year. I have met a lot of the people that are inspiring to me on a daily basis. Mick Foley was awesome. He was the first guy to ever do a podcast spot for the Potsy and Turd show. He like that guy to me, like, read all of his books. I've read all of his autobiographies. This guy's got 3 autobiographies. I mean, that tells you exactly how big of a life he's lived, right? Um, just the overcoming of adversity, not having the right body shape for being a male wrestler, and yet somehow becoming a 3-time world champion. I guess technically 4-time world champion now, if you include his TNA time, whatever. Met him actually twice. Met a couple other wrestlers. Like, anybody that takes a look at my Twitter or my Facebook page after I meet a wrestler, for whatever reason, I always ask them to punch me in the face. So I've got pictures of Mike the Miz Mizanin actually punching me in the face. I've got a picture of Mark Henry, the world's strongest man, getting ready to punch me in the face, and he just looks mad, like he's just mean mugging in that picture, like he really wanted to knock this ginger out. Uh, Super nice guy, though. He is one of the best people in the world in terms of when you talk to him, and just how gracious he comes across for what he was able to accomplish. I mean, the guy's the world's strongest man. He's actually won strongman contests, and on top of that, he's also a former WWE heavyweight champion. Like that's just it's awesome. He's also a former Olympian. Uh, so I've met them. I've met a bunch of different wrestlers. I've met, uh, but I've also met the late great Adam West. My favorite story about that is he was at the trade show, and I waited in line to meet him, and I got up to him, and I wanted to try to get a podcast spot from him, but he's a guy that, because he was on Family Guy and everything, he was paid for his voice, so it wasn't anything that I was told, no, you're not allowed to do that, whatever, and I'm like, man, that really sucks. But he looks at me and he goes, he's just staring at me, and I'm like, Adam West, you're amazing. I this is one of those eye-opening moments for me. I mean, you are Batman to me. And he looks at me and he goes, thanks. And I'm like, this is just a really big moment for me. And he goes, really, Rob? Really? And I'm like, you don't believe me? And he goes, bump it. And he puts his fist out and he gives me a fist bump. So left hand fist bump. I'm like Adam West fist bump my left hand. The next year, I go to the same trade show and Stan Lee is there. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge comic book geek, and meeting Stan Lee, like, to this day is one of those moments in my life where I'm like, uh, like I, last year at San Diego when I handed when Todd McFarlane had a copy of my comic in hand, and he's like, I really appreciate this because I don't get to walk the floor and everything. That was one of those moments where I was like, Todd McFarlane, the guy that drew the very first comic that I ever got my hands on, is standing next to me, and I'd say we're peers, but I mean he's the Todd father, right? So so just the fact that, like, I'm giving a copy of my book, he gives me the print. You know what? Hold on a second. I'm going to show everybody this. Todd McFarlane last year gave me this from the 25th anniversary of Spawn. It's signed by Greg Capullo, Todd McFarlane, and Jason Sean Alexander, the new artist of Spawn. Um, and pretty much all because I told the story of how I actually got into comics, how like I wasn't reading books and I was going in for surgery for something, and my parents bought me comic books from the hotel, or not hotel, the hospital gift shop. And it was Amazing Spider-Man 315, and Todd McFarlane just starts telling the story about how he wanted to draw Hydro Man differently than anyone had before, because he wanted to make it look like the water was actually flowing. And yet back then, because they didn't use computer coloring or anything else, wasn't easy to show that. So he had to create ways to make it look like it was moving. So very similar to how he talks about, like, making the webbing all gooey and everything else. Same thing with Hydro Man. He knew Sandman kind of looked like a certain character. So Hydro Man, he kind of did the same thing with, and told that story, and like I said, gave me the really cool print, which to this day, like, I'm still sitting here going, man, I got to get this thing framed. There was only 200 of them made. It's number 65. Um, and yeah, it's one of the few takeaways that I actually got at San Diego Comic-Con last year. Blew my mind that he actually was kind enough to just hand something over like that. Like, that's just super cool to me. Like, I don't even know what else to say. And in fact, one other thing. Oh, I don't actually have it. Sorry, guys. I was looking for it. I actually have an original sketch from Todd McFarlane, from that same trade show that I go to every year. And one year I walked up to him and I was like, Todd, since 1992, I've been trying to get an original piece of art from you. Just a sketch, something really quick, whatever. And he told me, he goes, well, there's a lot of people in line. And I'm like, I know, but like I said, 1992, 1993, you did this event. It was basically Wizard World Philadelphia before it was actually called Wizard World, and you did this debate against Peter David about how writers and artists, just the whole industry was, this was right after Image started and everything, and he just started laughing with me and joking about that whole situation. And then he looks at the person that's with him, and he's like, you think I got time to do a sketch for him? And he's like, I don't know, you're Todd, you make the decisions. So Todd stands up and he looks around and he takes a look at the line. There's probably 500 people waiting to meet him. And he goes, yeah, I got you, bro. And literally sketches out Spawn. And if you go to my Facebook page, there actually is not a video anymore, but one of my old phones actually had a video of him doing the sketch. But I do have a picture of him actually making the sketch. So one of those great moments. Stan Lee story, getting back to that, because now I'm at the 35-minute mark here, so you guys are probably getting bored of listening to me. The Stan Lee moment, I walk up. Now, I gotta preface this. So at my trade show, there's 2 days of going to different video game developers training rooms, and they always try to make it fun. So Warner Brothers is there because they're doing they're talking about Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, and and uh and like they're talking about it, and they're like, so just for everyone here, we've got wristbands for meeting Stan Lee. And I almost fall out of my chair because I'm like I've never met Stan Lee. The gentleman's 94 years old. You can read all about the craziness that's going on with the people that actually take care of him and everything else. So really really crazy situation with him. And so they go, all you got to do is answer some trivia questions. We're gonna have 3 of these wristbands that we're gonna give out, and if you're the first person to raise your hand, we'll call on you. You get it. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm like, all right, someone help me make sure my hand goes up faster than everybody else's. First question is, what was the first appearance of Iron Man? It's, Tales of Suspense. What was the first appearance of Marvel's Thor? Tales to Astonish. And I'm sitting there, I'm raising my hand. I go, please, I'm the only person that raises their hand to all 3 questions. I'm swearing to myself that I'm faster than everybody else putting my hand up. And the third question comes up, and it's something simple like what was the first appearance of Spider-Man, which obviously was Amazing Fantasy number 15. And I'm sitting there, I'm raising my hand, I'm like going nuts, I'm raising my hand, and they call on someone else, and the first person gets it wrong. They call on someone else, and they get it right, and I'm like, great, just missed my chance to meet Stan Lee. And the guy comes up to me after it, and he goes, I got you, don't worry. And I'm like, what's he mean? And literally he came up to me with one of the little things with the wristband in it, and he goes, I know that you knew all the answers. I wanted to give everyone else a chance, and here. And he gave me one of the wristbands. So I'm sitting there, just as awestruck as I was the year before. I put the band on, and it's a really cool, like, holographic band, and it says Meet Stan Lee, and I'm like, this is so cool. And everybody's coming up to me from my team, and they're all like, seriously, man, how did, like, you got one? Like, he didn't call on you? And I'm like, he came up to me and said, I got you. I was like, awesome. So that's the first thing I had to do when I got into the expo floor for the trade show part. And I'm like, I got to go meet Stan Lee. And apparently Stan was literally only there for like an hour. And what they had him doing was he's sitting at a table all by himself, and he's just signing things, and they're just sliding the things, and he's signing, sliding. And I walk up, and I'm just watching as he does it. And he just looks at me and he goes, hello. And I'm like, oh my God, Stan Lee's talking to me. Like, I'm dumbfounded. I turn around, I look behind me, and my buddy Tony Perillo was with me, and Tony's like, Rob, talk to him. And I'm like, oh my God, you're Stan Lee. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, this is an honor. This is a privilege for me. I can't believe I'm meeting you. This is a life one of life's best moments for me. It's obviously bucket list meeting Stan Lee, telling him, hey, I'm a local comic creator. I've got a book coming out, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, that's really cool. And I'm like, just hearing that from you, you have no idea. This is amazing for me. And I said, is there any way I can get a fist bump from you? Now, remember earlier, I gave the left hand fist bump to Adam West, and then I gave the right hand fist bump to Stan Lee. So now, to answer Brian's question from earlier, how do you find the creative time and everything else? Well, I got Adam West with me, and I got Stan Lee with me. So I take them with me everywhere now. And one of life's great moments, two of life's great moments, plus all the Todd McFarlane stuff I was just talking about. It's really cool knowing that my life has been touched by these people, and I was able to actually meet a bunch of them. Um, so so Chris, that was a very long-winded answer to your question of, is there anybody that I'm going out of my way to meet? Jamie Lee Curtis, absolutely. I will do what I can to actually meet her. Hope to get a picture with her. Hope to give her a copy of the preview book, and obviously tell her that I will comp her the entire series run of Junior High Horrors. So, are there any other things or people that I want to meet? I don't know who's gonna be there. I'm thinking literally, how do I go to this show and try to sell the book, try to sell the Immortal trade paperback, which will be launching at San Diego Comic Con as well. Super excited about that. Totally expect to do a live stream every day from the show. Probably not 45 minutes or anything like that, but you never know. Um, Billy and I will be cutting it up. We're two peas in a pod when it comes to shows like that. So hopefully, he's cool with me putting him on the YouTube stream as well. But yeah, we're gonna be live at San Diego Comic Con. I'll probably put the camera on for some of the stuff before the show opens, after the show closes, like just kind of behind the scenes stuff as well as but it's all dependent upon whether or not I can actually keep my phone charged so that I can do all that. But yeah, I totally expect to do some stuff like that. I love meeting the artists. Tom Nguyen, who is a friend of mine online, been a friend of mine online for a really long time, but I've never actually met him in person. I am going to make it my mission to meet him in Artist Alley this year. Uh, I haven't met him. Want to. Last year I got to meet Scott Williams, the inker of Jim Lee's comics, and super gracious. He actually let me touch the anniversary Rolex watch that Jim Lee gave him. It's a Batman Rolex. It's really freaking cool. Let me touch that. So like again, inspiration, just a bunch of stuff going on there. So that was really cool. Met Wills Portacio last year. That was really cool. It's really weird. I met a lot of the old Image guys all last year. Like even Rob Liefeld ended up meeting him in November. So it's pretty crazy that I met Jim. Well, I didn't meet Jim Lee, unfortunately. I did that. Like, if I had to say, besides Jamie Lee Curtis, is there one person that I have to meet that like security will probably come up and grab me and take me away? It'd probably be Jim Lee. But I met Scott Williams, I met Wills Portacio, I met obviously had a conversation with Todd McFarlane. Greg Capullo last year sat there, gave me a big thumbs up when a copy of my comic got sent around to him. So that blew me away. My 5 seconds that I got with Scott Snyder was really cool because I told him that without him, and I'm not the biggest Scott Snyder fan in terms of the comics, but I respect what he's been able to do with the industry immensely. Um, but but he's one of the people that tried, that based on him being in charge of like the talent search for DC Comics, it's one of the reasons why I'm writing comics again. And I wanted him to know that because for me, if he hadn't been part of that whole thing with Jim Lee and the announcement that Scott is in charge of this writing school, if you will, I I would have never gotten the itch back to start writing comics again. And now 2 years later, I'm sitting here with another book coming out, maybe some other projects down the line. I don't like to over overexert myself and have multiple things going at one time, even though it probably would be better for my career. But yeah, so some pretty cool stuff going with that. Um, I think, folks, I think that's just about everything I got in me tonight. Starting to lose my voice. Got some water here in my Yeti that I'm trying to clear that up with. But hopefully these questions, how I answered them, everything else, you kind of got a feel for me. You kind of know what's going on. I like to talk. I like to sit there and spread the word, spread what's going on. To me, like anybody watches this, I'm just ecstatic about it. I hopefully some of these days when I'm doing live streams, I'll have people in the room if they want to super chat me. I'll answer any question on super chat. Um, you know, anything along those lines. I've already said my rules are pretty much let's keep politics out of it, and let's try to love one another and not do anything crazy like that. So hopefully those stories, everything else that I gave you tonight, were more than enough to keep you entertained and hopefully bring you back for the next one. With that said, I'm out.